Hello everyone, welcome to Week of Geek. My name's Reevesy and today I want to talk to you about the 35mm lens from Yongnuo, and specifically, is it any good for streaming and creating YouTube content? Okay, so to start, we don't usually on this channel review technology or cameras or lenses, but when I was going through the struggles of making sure I had the right lens and camera set up for my live stream and videos, I couldn't find any reviews on this 35mm or a Canon 35mm for this type of video. Therefore, I wanted to create something and chuck it out. Now I've gone and bought this lens and hopefully it's going to be a benefit to you. So the first thing about this lens I want to talk about is the price point. So it's currently coming in at Amazon at £84.99, which is not a lot of money. Now, with that £84.99, you get an f2 aperture, and that aperture gives you the blur in the background. That's the look I was really trying to go for. Of course, it helps if you've got some really good lighting to make you the subject pop, but that background blur really makes the difference. And for £84, I think you're going to struggle to get an aperture as low as f2. Or is it high? It could be as high as f2. Someone can correct me. Like I said, I'm not a tech expert. I know a bit about cameras. I'm actually currently filming with that lens at the moment, so you can see what it looks like. But there's a few things that I really need to caveat before anybody goes out and buys this lens. So at £84.99, this lens is just over a fifth cheaper than any other of the Canon lenses with 35mm and this kind of aperture. So you can understand why I was drawn to it, and you can understand why I wanted to find out some videos and see if it's too good to be true before buying it. And with that price point in mind, there are a few things which you need to consider. So the first thing is autofocus. So this camera's autofocus is not as good as Canon's. What that means is if you're not confident with manual focus, you might end up getting a lot of searching for the subject, that kind of focus search. This is the kind of thing I mean. Notice how long it's taken to focus into my hand, and eventually it does. Canon cameras do it a lot faster, and they're renowned for kind of picking up on faces quicker. It's still taking a while now. So that's definitely one thing to consider. However, you can set it to manual and just stay within the field of depth and making sure you're in focus and everything else is out. But again, something to think about when buying this lens is with an f2 aperture, you've got quite a shallow field of depth. So if you are using manual focus, you can't really be moving once you've got it in focus too much, because when you go out, kind of pop out of focus and pop back in. The second thing that you'd have to put up with this kind of price is the colors. So the colors aren't as vibrant or true to life as what you'd get in a Canon camera. I'm actually using a filter at the moment, so you probably can't tell the natural coloring, but if I just remove it, this is exactly what the camera will look like without any filters and without any color correction. Like I said, it doesn't pop as much as what a Canon does. All of these bright colors behind me would usually be a lot more vibrant. So you can do a lot in post when you're editing, and you can do a lot with color correction. So it's not necessarily something to worry about, but it is something to bear in mind. So let's talk about it from a streaming point of view. Is it any good as a streaming lens? I think the first thing that you're going to notice is how zoomed in this lens is on my face. And let's be honest, nobody wants that. But that is something that you're going to have to bear in mind when you're buying this lens. If you wanted to get lots of your backgrounds, or like me, you're in a small room, you might want to think about forking out some extra money for a wider angle lens so you can get some more of your background and your surroundings in. I think a 20-25mm lens will do if you can get a low enough aperture to get the blurred background, which we've been talking about at the beginning of the video. Another thing to bear in mind when we're talking about how much background is in and how much of you can see and how zoomed in it is, you need to think about your camera's crop factor. So I'm currently filming on an EOS 700D. That's a Canon 700D. it means whatever millimeter lens you're filming with, you need to times by 1.6 to find out what it's actually going to look like. So this 35mm actually looks around a 56mm because of the 1.6 crop factor. Now you can find your crop factor by simply Googling, I think it's called lens focal length, and by finding that number you can find out what your millimeters are actually going to translate into. It's just something to bear in mind, because you could, with your camera, go out and buy a really nice lens which is 22mm and hope you're going to get lots of background, and in actual fact, because of that crop factor, you only get a talking ugly ass head like this one. Now, like I said, is it good for streaming? Yes. For me, this is fine. This is all I want on my stream. My head with a bit of a blur of a background. That's because I'm usually playing games and a little tiny corner in the box. On my intermission screens, I've got a bit of a bigger view of my head, but I never need to be the main thing. People are coming there to watch me, but the gameplay is the thing that's taking the most space. So for streaming, absolutely. However, if you were streaming a chat show or something which doesn't have another focus, this might not be enough background and enough view for you to consider, because it is very much a talking head. Which brings me on very nicely to my next thing I would like to speak about. Is this any good for YouTube videos and content creation? Well, you can be the judge, because this is a YouTube video and it is very much the style that I would usually expect people to be filming with this type of lens. It's a talking head, and obviously aptly called because I am a talking head, but for this style of video I think it's fine. For gaming reviews, that kind of thing, again, if you're shooting off to other focuses and you've got other things to look at, I think it's fine. For reviews, I think it's fine. For instructional videos, I think it's fine. I don't think it's going to be any good for those of you who would like to start making content that involves vlogging, walking around and trying to capture stuff, because this camera is currently quite a way away from me. It's about a meter away from my face, and a meter is quite a big space if you're filming in a small room or wanting to vlog out on the street. You won't be able to kind of hold it away from you and get that selfie angle, so it's definitely something to bear in mind. Okay, so to answer the original questions, and if you couldn't be asked to listen to all the babble before, is it any good for streaming? Yes, I think it's really good for streaming if you're not really focused on having a big area and talking to lots of people, like chat shows and that kind of thing. It's great for gaming if you just want to be sat in the corner, because it gives you that really blurred background, which everybody loves, because it's got quite a low aperture. And for the money, I don't think you're going to find that anywhere else. The two things you need to bear in mind when you're thinking about streaming with this lens is you're probably going to have to apply some sort of color correction filter, because this lens doesn't pop all of the brightest colors like a Canon lens usually would. The second thing is the autofocus isn't great. In fact, I've been using it for this video and I've had to stop about 3 or 4 times to make sure it is in focus. So if you're really good with color correction and you're quite good at using manual focus, go for it. Is this any good for YouTube content creation? I think yes, if you're doing a very specific type, and again, like before, you don't want too much in your background, go for it. If you've got a big room, this would also work, because you could set yourself back from the camera and have some more stuff in your background. But if, like me, you're in a small box room and that's where all your streaming's done, you might want to think about moving on to a wide angle lens, something around 20 to 25 millimeters, because you need to bear in mind that your camera has a crop factor, and that 25 will probably come out looking a bit like a 35, which is of course what we've got on here. So overall, for £84.99, I love this lens. It is really good and it gives you the effect that you want for a really cheap price. If, like me, you're quite new to streaming and creating content, this is the kind of thing I would definitely dip into your pocket to buy. The next step up is probably around 150 quid for the next type of lens, and then after that we're talking 300, 400, 500 quid. So that being said, it's something really good to get you started and gives you the effect, which you're not going to find for cheaper than £300-400, of the f2 aperture and the blurred backgrounds. And that's it. I hope it's been helpful. Like I said before at the beginning of the video, I couldn't find any videos on this lens or this type of lens. So if it has helped you out, please consider subscribing and liking the video, and leave me a comment to let me know, because, you know, We're all looking for that self-gratification, aren't we? I guess. Okay, cool. Thank you very much, everybody. I've been Liam. You've been watching Week of Geek, and we'll see you next time.